From the year 1912 to about 1915, in the Landfair Valley in East Mojave in California, there was a rush of homesteaders going into that area to make a go of making a homestead. Government had opened up Landfair Valley for anybody who would claim a section, a quarter section, and build a shack 10 feet by 10 feet and have a single window or one or more windows and one or more doors, and till the land and plant crops. And the first year of the claim, person had to clear 1 acre and plant 1 acre under cultivation. Second year, I believe they had to do 3 acres, and then third year they had to do 5 acres. And if they met those requirements, they would get a deed to that land. My mother's mother, by the way, still owns one of those old homesteads near Amboy in California. In the year, let's see, around 1920, there was this fellow named John Kousch, Kousch, who had a gasoline-powered well drilling rig. And for $1.50 per foot, he would drill a well for anybody who wanted a well. Problem is, almost all of the homesteaders in the Landfair Valley could not afford to have a well drilled, so they had to go to a privately owned well, and they had to pay the person who owned that well money for water, and they hauled it away in barrels, oak barrels. Anyhow, John Kousch probably did not drill very many wells because, as I said, nobody could afford to pay him. But he did get a job in the year 1921 on a homestead where the owners, who had gotten a patent on the land, wanted him to drill a well. So he parked his rig on the land, and he started drilling, and he went down to 225 feet at $1.50 per foot. Somehow or other, he got into his head that he wanted to check and see how much gasoline was left in the fuel tank for his rig. So did he use a dipstick? Of course not. He used a lighted match. That's right, a lighted match. Struck a match, held it over the opening of the gas tank, and peered inside. The resulting explosion made the gasoline tank rupture, which spewed gasoline all over the area, and that gasoline ignited. The engine on the rig, it was blown off the rig, and poor Jack Kousch was badly burned. Unfortunately, the well was never completed, so I suppose that the homesteaders didn't pay him for that 225 feet of drilling that he had done. Anyhow, if you buy a worthless piece of desert, desolate wilderness out there, and you get into your head that you want to drill a well, or indeed dig a hole if the water table is low enough, and I know several places in East Mojave where the water is low enough you can use a shovel to dig a well, and you come up with salt water, you can use solar energy to distill that water into drinking water. Here's one suggestion on how to do that. You can make a rectangular box with 5 sides out of 2x6 boards. You can put a plywood sheet underneath on the bottom. On one long edge of your rectangular box, you will want to put another board. This could be 6 inches, but I suggest more than 6 inches, perhaps 8 or 12 inches high. You then want to make side pieces, and you want to taper that so that it comes to a point on your rectangular box. You then want to line your rectangular box with a moisture barrier, such as what you use when you pour a concrete foundation. This is generally a black and thick mill rubber sheet. You then want to put feet on your rectangular box so that you can make the rectangular box level. You also want to dangle perhaps a 5-gallon jug underneath your solar still, so you want the legs long enough to clear a 5-gallon jug. On the inside of your rectangular box, where the tapered ends are the lowest, you want to put a rain gutter or a piece of pipe that has been cut lengthways in half, something that will convey water down to a spigot or a hole on the side of your box. At the lower end of your rain gutter, you want a pipe or tube going into a bucket or a 5-gallon carboy, such as what you make wine out of. This is to hold your distillate, your drinking water. You then want to make a wooden frame on a sheet of glass that fits over the top of your distiller. You want it airtight so that water vapor does not escape, and you also want a way to get that glass off of the top so that you can perform periodic maintenance inside. Generally speaking, you want the lower end facing south if you live in the northern hemisphere, or facing north if you live in the southern hemisphere. Should also note that you want to put your salty water into the distiller. You can either use a funnel and a hose, and you don't have to open the glass, or you can open the glass and prop it open with a stick and pour water in there, and make sure that you don't get any in your rain gutter, because that would contaminate your fresh water. And you must have a airtight seal on that glass. You can use rubber silicone, but you still have to have a way to open the thing up and flush it clean. Every couple of days you want to flush it clean with salty water. How much this produces, of course, depends on how much sunlight you have and how airtight your steel is. Should also note that in some of the images that the URLs that I will show on the video's description here, the angle of that glass plate isn't very steep, and I suggest that the person make the solar still with a sharper angle than what's shown in these images here. The reason for that is once water condenses on the inside of that glass plate, you want it to run off into your rain gutter quickly, because if it lingers on that glass, it's blocking sunlight. You want sunlight to hit the water that is in your black rectangular box down there. You've got your black lining under there. You want the sunlight to hit that and not the water droplets on your glass plate. The images on the websites that I have linked over here, the angle looks it's not optimum to me. I want a sharper angle. Cost-wise, I would estimate to make a good one might cost you $150. I have been contemplating, actually, perhaps I could make a business of building solar steel kits, and I could make the frame and everything, and I could sell them as a kit, and all the person has to do is put bolts through pre-drilled holes with thumb screws and assemble it. And it might take me $150 to make a kit, and maybe I could sell it for $200 per, I don't know. Another idea is to not use wood, but to use angled aluminum. I suspect wood would be cheaper. Anyhow, that is one way to convert salty water, or water that is unpotable, even urine, into drinking water.